Well, let's go ahead and get started with the work session. Who's heading that one up?
I'll kick us off.
Okay.
Kelly unfortunately is out sick this evening, so he was going to be the deliverer, so bear with us if we've got to juggle between a couple individuals to answer any questions you have.
Okay.
But I'll just jump right in. So, gosh, I think several years ago really is when this first conversation, this topic first came up, but in our most recent council goal setting session, we identified the need to update regulations on outdoor burning. And so that was adopted as Council Goal 6.8. And so staff have been working on that behind the scenes over the last several months. Planning Commission did receive a staff report and provided some comments back in either May or June of this year. And so what you have before you this evening incorporates some of their feedback. Essentially, just to cut to the chase, our municipal code was very lacking, for lack of a better term, in regards to any sort of compliance or regulations around outdoor burning. And so at the bare minimum, I think there's good reason to include some of the DEQ language and Clackamas Fire / Sandy Fire language in our code to make sure that we have some consistency and good understanding on what is and is not allowed. And then beyond that, and Councilor Hokanson, I don't mean to speak for you, but I'm going to, I think, paraphrase some of the conversations that maybe highlighted the need for this. There were some concerns around the existing minimum lot size that was in the code and the proximity to backyard burning with either structures, fences, homes, trees, etc. And if I'm not mistaken, the existing code says a 1/4 acre or larger. And as you can imagine, that might seem like a lot until you're standing in the backyard of a 1/4 acre property and you can see all your neighbors around you, you can see their sheds, you can see their fences. And so trying to have some thoughtful review and analysis on how to expand that size requirement to ensure that there isn't noxious fumes, smoke, ash, while also reducing the opportunity for potential burning issues, igniting neighboring structures and things like that. And so essentially, I'll just, dive in here. We are proposing a minimum lot size of 1 acre for backyard burning, with some specific language on proximity to structures, the size of the burn pile, obviously staying in compliance with Sandy Fire / Clackamas Fire regulations and DEQ regulations. There's also some reference into the enforceability of that and violations and things of that nature. Josh, anything you want to tack on to that sort of summary?
Not really. It was, I think, a combination of just improving clarity and trying to make some policy changes, which is, I guess, what we're mostly looking for input for you all on, based on some of the things that Tyler discussed.
So my understanding would be that the teeth to that, I assume, would be the same teeth that fire department doesn't have for enforcement, which would basically be that you're burning in a smaller lot size than 1 acre, closer proximity than you should be, and it's up to DEQ whether or not they want to do anything.
So this code language in front of you does outline it as a Class A infraction in our municipal code, subject to a $1,000 citation. I think as with most of our code enforcement practices, there'd be a warning beforehand,
Education,
right?
correct,
I mean,
education, yeah.
yeah, their education and voluntary compliance as much as possible, subject to some very egregious act that really just warrants an immediate, enforcement action. The police department had been looped into this too and provided minimal comments, as I recall, and maybe that was Lieutenant Craven when you were out, if that wasn't you, Chief.
I think that was right.
Okay, so you were involved in this. Okay. So yes, there is a ability for us to enforce beyond just waiting for DEQ or the fire district to enforce from a citation perspective.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Well, it wasn't really, I guess it was kind of a question. It's sort of a question / statement.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we understand the fire department has no enforceable jurisdiction. DEQ does. But we don't issue citations.
good to know.
So let's follow this up then. So if
So
somebody,
that's why I was.
right, so if somebody's violating this, is this a code enforcement officer issue?
Yes.
Okay, so it's
I
a.
mean, I assume a sworn officer can also respond and write a citation,
Fair,
but yes.
ideally it would be under
Yeah.
code. So if.
So
I
I guess
assume
here's
the
the-
fire department gets
Well,
scrambled for these things routinely,
That's, so
right?
that's where I'm going, right? So
Yeah.
somebody calls in, say your neighbor's burning, because I know it's been an issue for you in the past.
Mhm.
So your neighbor's burning, they no longer fall under the code, so somebody calls 911. Fire department gets dispatched. PD would have no notification or knowledge of that. Right, fire department's gonna go and tell them to put it out. Right,
I assume, I mean, I don't know how well the fire department would even know we changed the code. I don't know what the hell.
well,
that would
you'd
work.
have to make them know.
I should have
And then-
added this,
and
we've,
if the fire marshal knows, yeah, if the fire
Okay.
marshal is aware, then the fire department will know.
Mhm.
And just like in the past, if somebody is burning outside of a controlled burn, you know, like you can have a backyard fire, right?
Right,
In a ring. But, you know, then we just nicely ask them to put it out. But again, there's no legal teeth to that.
Would
honestly,
if the
dispatch
fire
be-
goes out, then.
Yeah.
Problem
Right,
solved,
problem
right?
solved, right?
But
Yeah.
would dispatch, I mean, the intent here is that when dispatch is, when somebody calls 911 about fire, dispatch would mobilize our code enforcement in addition to,
No,
well, why do you say no? Because
because that's
what,
not,
because
that's not what happens.
I understand that's not what happens now. I think what we're proposing is that if we're the ones, the only ones that can enforce it, then they need to be dispatched.
I think that adds a
So-
lot of complexity to.
Yeah.
The change I was
And
hoping to
resource
get.
utilization.
so two things. One, we did include the fire district with these comments. My understanding was that the fire marshal was supposed to be here this evening. I don't see them in attendance virtually and they're not here in person, so that's
Not a good sign.
unfortunate. But they have been involved. They know that we've been working on this. They provided their comments and provided support or agreement with the proposed changes that we have. The second comment that I'll make, and I certainly don't mean to say that all of the calls happen this way, but oftentimes when there are things that maybe should require a 911 call, people don't call 911. They call City Hall or they
Right.
call
Yeah.
the front desk of the police department and report their
Yeah.
issue. So I think that there's good reason to assume that Sandy Police Department or code compliance would be responding to these because we're often the ones that are getting those calls, not a dispatch center. Chief could talk more about how dispatch works, or Counselor Smallwood, you as well from your line of work, or Counselor Sheldon as well. I'm not really sure how behind the scenes that works.
Counselor Smallwood is correct. If fire got there are two different nets. So we don't
talk to each other.
hear what it's
Dispatch,
doing.
dispatches, yeah.
We don't see what they're doing. And
That's why you get asked fire
Same.
police.
So often if there is a shared information, a call, they'll patch just that pertinent information. Like fires requesting police respond. So it would have to be protocols, I would think, at CCOM that would need to be changed. In that event, they were dispatched to an illegal burn. And I don't know. That could be a conversation for sure. But it's not really up to the fire to say, well, this is a police
No.
problem.
Okay, well,
I really-
my intent
Here.
here is that, you know, if somebody's inadvertently burning something, they're supposed to be burning, they're burning garbage, or they're burning, you know, stuff at the wrong time, and there's a, you know, obviously, if somebody calls 911 and the fire department comes and it's in, you know, risk of spreading, that gets put out. Right? Is that,
Well, of course, we're not gonna let a fire burn that's gonna
Right.
spread and cause a problem.
Right. Okay, I
Also,
just-
burning anything other than
The approved list. of
the
stuff.
approved, so leaves, wood products and things like that. You can't burn carpet, you can't, that's all illegal. That would be dealt with. We would issue a citation through DEQ and let DEQ know that we had an illegal burn. That's up to DEQ to enforce. They handle that. So there are only certain things that you can burn anyway.
right?
Yard debris.
Well, I was gonna bring up a point that it does, you know, it says no asphalt, no rubber, no this,
That's
that.
all illegal.
Right, I understand that, but it doesn't say no household garbage in here. So I thought that, and that's kind of something that some people do burn because they don't want to.
We
Paper,
should,
I don't think you can regulate people burning paper.
It's not always paper though. It's, you know, the plastic, the yogurt thing, it's just all your trash. And so, but my intent is not to kind of catch somebody doing something wrong. It's just kind of give folks the understanding of the fact that, you know,
that's,
this isn't allowed.
that's the
And
important part.
it does, and really, this is intended to kind of deal with the reoccurring scofflaws that, you know, just kind of don't care, don't plan to, you know, pay
So-
attention. And so I think there does need to be some closer coordination between Clackamas Fire and Sandy Code Enforcement to when there is, you know, rather than trying to wait around for DEQ to do something, we have the ability to kind of to take
Absolutely.
action if it's warranted.
But I mean, we're really, so the number of people who burn in the city is really low. And it's very low, yeah, it's, I mean, I can think of 2 or 3, I mean, it's in the small numbers. So when we deal with the education part, it's like, you can't, in some cases, they won't be allowed to anymore because their lot size won't hit. In the other cases, and by the way, your trash one, it specifically lists what can be burned. So anything not in that list cannot be burned under this code. It's under number 4, or sorry, 5. Vegetation, tree limbs, small wooded material is allowed. That's it.
Do we even have any lots in the city limit that are an acre?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have, I can give you an
Actually,
exact
my
count.
neighbor's, my neighbor's one of those.
Are they an acre? They're a full acre.
We have 308 parcels that are an acre or
Oh.
larger.
A lot of them on bluff.
So it's not, I mean, it's not a
Some
small
are.
number of
Yeah.
parcels by any means, but relative to the overall number of lots and the frequency that we're seeing burning, it's not a huge number to Councilor Hudson's point.
No, I'm aware.
Yeah.
I've been on very few
So-
burns in the city limits.
So the second point
Very
to,
few.
to the mayor's, if we're having repeating problems, somebody's going to have reported them in the first place. Me or some other neighbors not happy. And so I think that as we watch that repeated, you know, telling or bringing it to our attention, I think that's what escalates it for us to pursue it with code enforcement.
And if the fire department's going there repetitively, they'll deal
We'll
with it as
figure it
well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, but I just want them to understand that we have the ability to issue citations, which would get a, you know, a quicker and
Right.
more effective than
oh,
DEQ.
right. I mean, it's one thing for me to go over and talk to my neighbor and say, I really don't like your smoke when he's perfectly legal. Burning, then it's just a polite thing or not, right?
Right.
It's another for someone to be burning in a way that's not legal anymore. And I think that's really my point in bringing this up, and also make some clarity too. So there are setbacks now here that were not here before, so you can burn right up to your property line before, pretty close. I do have some concerns. One is for the agricultural 5-acre lots, 10 feet is a high pile of debris, especially where it has to be out by 2 hours before sunset.
I
And
think they made it 3 feet high.
10 feet
No.
diameter, 3 feet high.
oh, is that what it is? Did I
Yeah, the
misread
other
it?
Gresham and the other ones have it at 10 feet or 9 feet or something like that.
By
And
10.
Canby is 9 by 9 by 9.
Yeah.
Happy Valley's 10 by 10 by
Yes.
10.
and I kind of thought 3
Alright.
feet for agricultural pile was a little low. I thought you might want to,
Okay, no, so I apologize. I misread that. I get it.
you might want
I
to
kept
kind
it
of
in.
split it in the middle or something, you know, 5 or 6 or
3 feet is pretty low.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hearing 5 or 6,
Not,
Do I have
well, I think.
another 5 or 6.
I think it should be different for 5 acres and 1 acre.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but for the
But
agricultural.
I mean, if you're gonna allow 10 feet in diameter,
Yeah,
you know, at least half of that, I'd say at least 5 feet high.
Yeah, the
I mean, you're
reality,
talking about a 5-acre parcel, right? So they've got a lot of room.
the reality of a 10 by 10 by 3 is a bad burn.
yeah. it does.
You'd
You wanna
actually,
get that sucker hot.
you
so
have
it
to
goes
heat
away.
it to make it work right, so.
And it needs
I
air.
agree.
Do we have a preference for 5 or 6 feet?
Either is fine.
What's that?
I said either's fine. And for me.
Chris, do you have a preference?
I'd go 6.
Yeah,
I
I
like 6.
Anybody else?
I think it keeps it reasonable so that it'll have a chance of being out before evening.
Lindy? Six
Sounds
and six?
great, yeah.
Okay, can we
I'm-
change that to 6 on the agricultural?
Just on the agricultural,
Yeah.
leave it at 3 for the backyard.
Is it,
1
in the
acre
backyard,
lot.
is it still 10 feet by 10 feet?
I
10 feet diameter,
believe,
3 feet height.
yeah,
Yeah, we should change that. That's not appropriate. Once again, you can't, 10 foot by 10 by 3 won't burn. It just creates a smoldering mess. So that defeats the point of what we're trying to accomplish. with clean our air.
So
I
keep
don't
the
know that
3
you need
feet
10
height,
feet
but
by
do a
10
different
feet.
diameter.
Right, we shouldn't allow 10 feet by 10 feet
Yeah.
on an acre lot because if a 50 foot offset, I'm not even sure.
What about 7x5?
That really limits where you could put it.
What about 7x5?
7 by 5, yeah.
Is that 7
7
diameter,
by
5
7
height?
by 5. 7
Allows
square
it to
by
get some
5.
air in there, they get it good and hot and it goes away.
Anybody else? Rich, do you have any thoughts on that? No. Anybody else? We're okay with 7 by,
I'm not a fire expert, so.
7 by 7 by 5?
So I want to ask the question though, why we're dealing, so 5 acres. I'm assuming agricultural burn, we have agricultural things going on that property, that's why, but we need it. All right, I'm willing to give that. Why do we even want to allow it on a 1 acre lot where we have the chipper and we have trash or yard debris service that comes by once a week?
So the chipper, my understanding is the chipper doesn't work half the time.
happy to dive into a length, not lengthy, a
Please
couple
don't
minute
lengthy.
conversation about the chipper if now is a good time to interject. So the chipper has had various mechanical issues, a number of which have been caused by the person that is renting it or using it. People are generally hard run equipment that doesn't belong to them, right? Because they don't have to deal with the mechanical issues that come from that. So we also have an insurance coverage issue with the chipper and that program.
Sure.
We've been able to
I
get by
wondered
for a
why-
very long time.
Right.
We have a very, very strong recommendation to halt the chipper program from an insurance perspective. We also have the maintenance issue on top of that.
Okay.
We are kicking around, is it quarterly?
Oh. Let me get back to me on that, will you?
Get back,
Yeah.
we'll reiterate the frequency in a minute, but kicking around sort of a chipper to you program. So every certain interval going to a specific quadrant of the city and say, bring your limbs here, and you could have the chipper and public works staff would be available to help facilitate that. So still providing a service that maybe your normal yard debris pickup wouldn't pick up because the limbs are too large. But still allowing, neighbors to get rid of those larger limbs.
Can I?
Yep.
The idea would be that it would rotate so it should come close to your home every quarter. So we're gonna rotate around the city every quarter.
Can you tell me what the actual usage of that equipment is right now?
So at its peak, the chipper was checked out probably once per week, about 52 times a year.
Hugely popular.
I mean, it's very popular. I would say there's probably, they're recurring customers, right?
I was
It's
gonna say,
not,
among the people who use it.
it's very popular among people that use it. It's not reaching
So that was
50
gonna be-
new
that was
people
gonna be
every
my
year.
next question. So hypothetically, 52 times a year, how many of those are unique?
That I don't know off the top of my head, but I would venture to guess,
20?
there's probably 20 or 30 people that are using it on a regular basis.
Sometimes, like, when we've used it, we allow our neighbors to kind of bring their stuff over.
I've done the same thing when we bring it in. It's like we tell everybody in the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And we'd be offering a service similar to that just from
I've
the
been
city.
here
of
for
Cincinnati.
20 years, never used it, got chainsaw. So I'm just curious.
It all depends on what kind of lot you live in,
Right?
how many trees.
So that would be my only thing is just, I wouldn't want to limit people's ability to get rid of their yard debris. In the event of, like high fire season like we've had in the
Yeah.
past. Because I mean, in my mind, I would rather people get rid of it sooner than later and not have it sit around. So that's my only thing. If people are burning responsibly, they're getting it good and hot and they're taking care of it and it can go away.
Honestly,
That's just my thought.
And I was asking the questions because I'm thinking about what you said you were kicking around.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna put my lumber in my cars and drive it anywhere.
Mhm.
I threw it in my green container and I cut it up real small so it fits in there.
And I've done that. too,
I'm
when it's a
just
smaller than I've done that.
wondering
Yeah.
how somebody who doesn't have a pickup truck is gonna get their lumber to where that chipper is and use it, and will it get the use it needs, or are we doing this for the 20 or 30 people that use it regularly on
Well,
an annual
Well, the
basis?
city
Worst
uses it
case, you
for,
have the twice, is it twice a year cleanup we still have, or not once?
We have the once a year
The once a year,
curbside
right.
pickup.
we also, the city
Been a
uses
lot.
it, the city parks crew use it for, cleanup of parks and things like that. So it gets used there. I suppose we could, possibly consider having, the truck went on that quarterly day, have, somebody doesn't have one, couldn't get one, we could, drive by and with the truck.
Yeah, I mean,
Have them schlep it into the,
I don't think we'll solve, every situation right now, but
yeah.
the intent from the city side is certainly not to eliminate a service without still providing something similar or comparable. So whether that's, utilizing a city truck to haul a branch, whether that's working with, senior services and a partnership with Ant Farm or something else to help facilitate. We already have, contracts with Ant Farm for other types of cleanup. This could be another thing that we add on. So I certainly think there's plenty of other avenues we could explore for those one-off situations where someone can't get
So,
a limb or limbs off their property.
so we're talking about offering something that would come to a different neighborhood or a different area quarterly, which means it's going other places also quarterly. What's the cost incurred on that? That seems like a lot of extra labor.
So right now, Public Works drives the chipper out if you reserve it,
Right.
parks it at your house, drives the dump truck out, parks it at your house. So you've got, 2, 3 employees that are dropping off and picking up and checking out and checking in and all of that
Comes out and
process.
fixes it.
Comes out and fixes it
Guys.
or pays the repair costs because it, isn't working when it's returned. It's hard to say exactly, what the cost would be because we don't know what
Right.
the usage would be,
Well,
but
because
we,
if we're talking about hauling stuff around various areas so that it hits everything quarterly, that means it's literally like, that sounds like it would almost be multiple times a quarter that's moving around. That seems like a lot of labor.
it would be a couple hours, probably 4 or 5 times a quarter. Again, we need to see, exactly what the usage.
Yeah.
But ideas are great until we actually
Yeah,
figure out
for
who's
sure.
using them,
Nope,
right?
so-
So,
And I appreciate you looking for a solution.
yeah, I mean, like I said, we don't have all the answers,
Yeah,
but we're
about
trying to
consol-
figure out.
What about consolidation? And I'm again just throwing options out there. Maybe you thought about it, maybe you haven't. Consolidation like we do trash, where instead of bringing the chipper to every house, you bring a truck that picks up the wood from every house and delivers it to a central depot where the city does its own chipper
I
work.
think having done this sort of chipping before, most of the time it's easier to have the chipper there than it is to make the wood. Put the fall or whatever's come down in a form that you can get it on a truck conveniently.
Yeah.
Cause with the chipper, I mean, you can take a whole lot of debris that'll suck in on with it, whereas if you're loading it on your truck, you have to limb it all, take it all off, and now you did a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a
It's a lot
20 foot,
more.
I had a 20 foot branch that dropped yesterday in the rain in my backyard.
Yeah,
And I chopped it up in little pieces, but I'm thinking if somebody who lives
if
on.
it was 8
on a
inches or
lot.
less, that would go in the chipper as one.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if people who live on those lots that have that kind of wood, they don't have access to a chainsaw or an axe or
Right.
something to make that more palatable for a pig. Again, I'm just suggesting idealism here, because I don't know what the cost, it might be more labor intensive to drive around and pick up wood versus
Yeah.
moving the chipper. I just was thinking of different ideas.
Well, one option is to just allow people to, what we used to do in the old days is the old public workshop that's on the university. People could bring stuff down there and they had a slash pile, then they just, ran stuff through the chipper.
Like a central location.
Yeah. The other side of that is that, people, my friends outside the city, not that they ever did that, but they, kind of
Everybody.
come bring a bunch of stuff in my truck to the, I mean, it can get abused that way. So, but I think there's no perfect option, so.
No,
The reason I'm asking this, the 1 acre, is because this isn't, I mean, yes, it's an inconvenience, but for a lot of people, the smoke, things is more than just an inconvenience. It's a true health hazard. When people burn in my neighborhood, and I'm not faulting him, he's perfectly legal, but he burns vegetation, green stuff. A lot of yard debris that's not tree limbs and hot burning, right? So it just smolders. And DEQ is pretty good about how they pick dates, but out here, it doesn't always work. You can get an inversion and settle and it'll come through the whole neighborhood. At that point in time, I can't have my windows open, my doors open. And, you know,
Unfortunately, if you can,
Now, for me, I have AC, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
But my wife would die if we had windows open. She would be total asthmatic and shut down. And that's the part that I think, you know, it's 2025. We don't need to, and we put all kinds of air quality on everything, but we allow that help thing to continue.
yeah,
So I,
unfortunately, if he could get that hot, getting hot with a lot of air through it,
oh, yeah.
it wouldn't do that.
I mean, one time I took a big old blower over, it, but I was
Sure.
rebuffed,
Sure,
you know. 'cause-
yeah, I sympathize,
Right.
yeah.
So, but that's, and so that was me. Now, the other, earlier this year, I guess it was the beginning of the spring, going down Bluff. It's like lights on situation because somebody was burning on an agricultural sized lot and it just poured over everything and it was just thick. And it lasted that way for about an hour and a half. And
Oh,
the whole subdivision was smoked out. I'm like, this is not right.
What size lot are you suggesting would be palatable?
I'm willing to live with a 5 acre agricultural burn. I think we should drop backyard burning from 1 acre. From just in general, we should have your backyard fires, you know, cooking, s'mores, that sort of thing that we allow. But as far as trash burning or debris burning, what we call backyard burning under section 5.
How many?
I don't,
You said no, 300.
well,
Yeah,
I live on a more than an acre lot and I haven't burned in, 25 years because we had the chipper.
Right.
Now, there was, and I used it quite a bit and we still use it. We get, the storms and huge blowdown. So it is kind of a concern if we are gonna change it and not have the chipper available.
well, I love the idea of figuring out how to make the chipper
Yeah.
available safely and in a way that we can
Right,
afford.
so,
but in the
insurance-wise.
meantime, I would feel more comfortable with leaving this how it is with the 1 acre until we get. I just, like I'm gonna use Kathleen's, I'm gonna use Bluff as an example, or the example she just used. I get your neighborhood concern. But for some of these people that are in the city limits that are still outlying, who do get a lot of tree fall and windfall. If we were to have another 2020 and they have all that debris sitting in their backyard, it's a fire hazard, and it's a fire hazard for the entire neighborhood.
I don't disagree, which is why I really think that deserves a citywide response for, especially an event like that. Where once a quarter isn't gonna cut it, we need to get the chippers out and make areas safe right away, and I think we need to be more proactive about it.
one of the things that happened this last year was two burning episodes right by the high school, the tennis courts. Just to the right, there's a big, huge, long parcel that kind of goes back to baseball fields and all the way to Bluff. And they were burning and it was kind of lots of smoke and so I kind of went and talked to them and told them about the chipper. They were all, probably 80 years old. They were doing it for somebody who was even older. They were helping. So, very nice people. And I said, hey, we've got this chipper. And they said, oh, yeah, we tried that a couple of years ago and it got stuck in our soil because their yard was just so wet and soft and the whole chipper got stuck back there. They then had to bring the backhoe to pull it out. Now, that's one example of where sometimes the chipper isn't good. And so they were burning and I kind of, they were being very careful about it and stuff. Then flash forward to, God, it was at least after the 4th of July. It was like, I don't know, a week after the 4th of July. And that parcel over there by the PGE at Bluff and 26, there's the PGE site. And then just towards the middle school are like two houses, I think, two houses. And the one furthest back that's the one where it's like a 0.28 acres and he was burning big time and it was just all the smoke was coming over all in the shopping centers and stuff. I mean, it was a huge thing. I just drove by and I might have called it in, I don't remember, but it was, it was hot and he was way too close to infrastructure and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's an example of where, he could have gotten the chipper and taken care of it. So.
I would just add to, we have examples just last week with an email that you all saw an exchange between me and a resident, and they had limbs and they were a disabled vet, and, you know, I had Public Works go out the next day and just haul those branches away. So I mean, we certainly have the ability as a small staff and a staff that's in tune with, you know, things we see on social media or get phone calls, we respond to those things. And so certainly if there's a big storm that comes through and we don't have the perfect plan in place yet, we'll, you know, once roads are clear, we can work on dispatching vehicles and helping, you know, get some of those bigger limbs or things out of people's yards. So what we're proposing here tonight is in no way, shape, or form limiting our ability to still respond to one-off scenarios where there are limbs that need to be removed from someone's property.
Would you guys be okay with just going ahead and giving them direction to kind of bring this forward to the council, but also have the staff kind of work on a chipper program that takes care of the safety and insurance issues?
Well, I'd want to know what the cost would be to accrue. I'd want to know what that's going to cost us, because you're talking about staff time, you're talking about labor. You know, so,
Well, I can't imagine doing it quarterly or as needed is more than.
but it's not quarterly, that's my point. It's going to different places quarterly, so it's more than quarterly. It would be several days over a week or several days over a month.
I'm really hesitant to link an update to the burn ordinance to a chipper policy, especially since we still have a chipper policy right now today in place. And because as we've identified, there's only a handful of lots that are burning right now, so the ordinance change that we're talking about right now isn't targeting the whole city, it's just few property owners at best. So I don't think, I think we should absolutely look at the chipper, but I think I'd like to do it separate. That doesn't mean that we need this to come out tomorrow. I mean, but I don't think it should be held up for a financial analysis on the chipper policy.
I can tell you that I'm for changing the agricultural burn from 10.3 to 10.6, changing the backyard from 10.3 to 7.5 and leaving it at 1 acre. I don't want to speak for those 300 people yet.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from them yet. And we don't have a chipper plan. I do think it's separate, like you just said. And it's something that we could modify later if we find out our chipper program won't work with it. We could go back and change the size. It's an easy amendment, I think. Is that right? So I would go for keeping this with those two changes.
Honestly, if that's all I get, that's a big improvement.
Yeah.
So it's not where I'd like to be, but I can live with it. Sure.
Does that-
We need a couple more safety things in here, though. It doesn't talk about slopes, and I think we need to be careful, 5 acres flat. Maybe not the whole, but the area needs to be flat. We can't be burning up slopes or counting that into our property. I look at my dad's property, he's got 2 or 3 acres, but all of it's down a hill. He shouldn't be burning ever, right?
You've already been working with fire marshal, I assume.
Mhm.
Yeah, it may be that they're not here tonight because Clackamas Fire does have a board meeting tonight as well at the same time, so it could have been that they needed to be there.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say if we follow DEQ's recommendations or whatever the fire marshal's
Yeah,
recommendations
something
are on
like
that.
That may have,
Similar vein, and Kathleen brought it up. Anything, we shouldn't be burning anywhere near under high voltage power lines. So like if you were to do a big agricultural burn underneath those BPA lines, they can actually arc.
Yeah, I don't think it's legal to do a burn under those.
Just want to make
Yeah.
sure it's clear that. But even over there, there's a transmission line that comes through into that substation, and if you smoked out that substation too strong, you can create flashover and arc.
I had one other question on mine when I was going through it, and this is more for the fire experts in the room, Lori. We have 200 feet from property line on the agricultural. Why only 50 feet on a 1 acre lot? Is 75 or 100 too much? Too far away?
Well-
Because 50 just seems really close.
100, my lot is like 100 by 100 or something, it's 1.0 something, and part of it's over the hillside, so.
That's kind of like middle of the,
You're looking
I
from
think,
here to wall.
what's an acre square? How many,
42,000 change,
yeah.
so how many feet in dimension?
420 by 100.
I mean, you're talking 50
or
feet from your wall.
200.
You're not gonna generate.
210 by
There's also
210 or
five
something.
floors.
Anything
Five
to
foot,
jump
enough
that way.
BTUs to
That's all, I don't know fire that well, so that's why I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't.
I think it'd be fine. I mean, if you had high wind or something like that, it'd be a different story, but
You wouldn't
There'd
be
be
having
no
fire
burning
then
in
anyway.
high wind
Right.
anyway,
You would
so,
have a-
yeah.
So for me, the distance is about less, gives smoke more opportunity to dissipate. So I would love 100 foot. But
Yeah, but if the property's only 100 feet, then they can't burn it, so.
well, then maybe you shouldn't be if you got neighbors on the other side. Maybe that's a lot that you shouldn't be burning. I don't know.
Yeah. Just a question that I had, was more worried about, it just seemed really, 50 feet seemed really close. My neighbor was burning a pile of wood 50 feet from me.
Well, I mean, I'm all for going up. If you support something a little more, let's go up.
I think on a 1 acre, if you've got somebody with a house and they've got a couple outbuildings and things like that, it'd be very difficult to go.
More than 50
Yeah,
foot.
and again, you're talking, that's from here to the wall, so that's a pretty good distance. There's not enough BTUs generated from that,
I think we figured out that an acre that's square would be 200 by 200, so at 100 feet, it'd have to be exactly
in the middle, yeah, which is where the house is.
Started in the fireplace. It's probably not good.
Well, I think if you have a series of, perfectly square 1 acre lots. If you're 50 feet from the fence, chances are your neighbor's house is not also right next to the fence. You're probably getting close to 100 feet.
My outhouse might be though.
You're, well, fair. Gotta be quick then, so the smoke doesn't.
I'm happy, I
I don't have
kind
an
of
acre
agree
lot,
with
so
him,
I'm saying.
and that's kind of where I'm sitting too, so I'm happy with that.
I was not in those meetings with the fire marshal, but I'll follow up with Kelly, who was, and make sure that we have had some discussions around slopes and the transmission lines, and we'll incorporate any other modifications that need to come as a result of those comments, Counselor Hopkinson, before we bring this back.
And maybe we should just generalize that as power lines or overhead lines in general. Just because people aren't smart enough to know what's what, so.
But we'll make sure that I think that's a good comment that maybe has already been looked at. I can't speak to that, but certainly we'll circle back and make sure that that's taken into account.
There must have been a last minute thing, because he did confirm that he'd be there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Something
It could have
probably
been
came up.
that, yeah, it could have been that they needed him at the board meeting or whatever, so
And
there's a lot going on.
one last comment, this one's more technical, this one's for you, Josh. In the enforcement section, A, should that not be A and B? Should nothing be B? Instead of one?
There should not be an A. This is just a formatting issue.
Right.
Which number are you
All
on?
right, all right.
Which
Thank you.
number?
836
020 enforcement. I was confused why there was an A there, and if there's gonna be an A, then you gotta have a B for nothing in this section is to be intended. I thought maybe that would be a good B if you were gonna do that, but
Yeah. We'll either split that into A and B or just get
or
rid of the
remove it,
letters.
one of the two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's get back together at 7. You got what you need?
I think we got what we need. We'll bring this back in the next meeting or two for adoption.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And please, talk to the staff about what they see as a successful, affordable, efficient, chipper
Yep.
program. Thanks. Let's get back together at 7. I'm gonna go ahead and call this session into order. 7 o'clock, let's start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We've got a fairly brief agenda, thankfully. Let's go ahead and do roll call.
Yes, Counselor Mayne,
Present.
Counselor Smallwood.
Here.
Counselor Sheldon.
Here.
Counselor Ramsayer.
She's excused.
Okay, Counselor Hanley,
Here.
Counselor Hopkinson.
Here.
Mayor Walker.
Here. Wonderful. Okay, so our agenda is starting off with public comment. And after that, and response to previous comments. Then we'll go ahead and ask Nellie to give us a report. After that, we'll have the consent agenda, which includes city council meeting minutes. It includes the transit building solar panel grant request, the Sandy Transit Title VI program updates and agreements, and the Sandy Transit STIF funding agreement with TriMet.
Then our old business is the alternative wastewater systems code additions. We'll have a report from the city manager, committee and council reports, staff updates, and we'll adjourn to an executive session at the end of the meeting. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda?
She didn't put it in there, but yeah, I'd like to move Nelly's report to the beginning after public comment, if we could.
Done and dusted. Okay, thank you. All right, Tyler, let's start off with public comments. We have Catherine McMullen, the county clerk here visiting us. Thank you. Welcome. If you could just give your address.
Yeah, my name is
Right.
Catherine McMullen and I live in Westland and work in Oregon City, but I serve the whole county, including here in C&D. I'm the county clerk for Clackamas County, and I'm here to celebrate National Voter Registration Day. National Voter Registration Day is tomorrow, and it's the day where we celebrate every eligible citizen's ability to vote hassle-free and easily. It is something that we're celebrating with election officials across Oregon and across the country. Tomorrow. And we're encouraging Oregonians to take a few moments today to make an impact, register to vote, and vote local, both in November and every election that follows. As you may know, in Oregon, you are eligible to register to vote if you're a resident of Oregon, a citizen of the United States, and at least 16 years old. And then once you turn 18, you'll get that first ballot in the mail. So you can let the young people in your life know about that. Here in Sandy, we have just under 9,000 registered voters in 3 different precincts. And that makes up 2.8% of Clackamas County's 319,600 voters. So it's a good chunk here in Sandy. I encourage citizens to take 3 steps. First, to check your voter registration status. Make sure your information is up to date. You can do that at oregonvotes.gov. And you want to update your voter registration anytime that you move, anytime that you change your name, or if you want to change your political affiliation. I also encourage you to sign up to track your ballot. You can do so on our website, which is clackamas/election, so .us/elections. And you can receive alerts via text, phone, or email so that you know when your ballot's in the mail to you, as well as whenever it's been accepted by our office and for counting. And then finally, I urge you to make a plan to vote for this election and the next one. So make a plan that includes when you'll receive your ballot, when and where you're planning to vote, and then how you're going to return your ballot. If it's going to be by mail, I always recommend that you return it a few days before Election Day via the mail, or return it to an official ballot drop site here at the Sandy City Hall or at the library. Our county election officials are a reliable source of trusted and accurate information about election processes and voter resources. So I encourage you to visit our website. I did bring both stickers if you want to wear tomorrow, as well as a few posters celebrating the day. It's a great nonpartisan holiday since 2012, so I encourage you to join me in the celebration, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mullen. I appreciate that.
I
Yes.
do endorse that track your ballot thing. I use that and I like that status of knowing it got there.
Yes. Would you leave with the
I'll leave that with
stickers
Sue.
and posters with the staff there?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other public comment online?
No one registered today.
Okay, all right, very good. And do we have any of the response to comments? I know you responded to Carl.
Yeah, I'll just run through briefly, sort of the 4 public comments we had and
Great.
an update on each of those. So the first one was from Nicole O'Neill, who just gave an update on the Sandy Historical Museum. So no real response needed in that regard. It was more just informational. We also had a public comment from Chris Jones, the executive director of Sandy Area Chamber of Commerce, who read a letter to the council. There was no real questions or follow-up that needed to happen in regards to that. So no update for you there. The next 2 were related to wastewater. We had Miss Nikki Skinner, who did have some exchange back and forth with the council. I think all of her questions ended up getting answered to the best of our ability at that time, as far as the information that we had available, with the caveat that we're going to continue to update our frequently asked questions on the website. I do have a post-it note on my desk as a reminder to myself to just reach out to her the next time we have a wastewater topic on the agenda and just send her a quick email and let her know, thanks for coming to provide public comment. We're talking about it again. If you'd like to show up, here's the date and time. So I'll take care of that at that juncture. And then the last public comment we had was from Carl Exner. Again, there was some back and forth with the council. I think he got some of his questions there. He did send a follow-up email a week or so after that meeting, I think, which I had replied to and copied you folks on. We don't have that included in the meeting minutes, but we could certainly add that as just follow-up. If you'd like that sort of correspondence documented in a formal way, just
Yeah,
let us know.
that'd be
We can
good,
do
just
that.
included in the meeting minutes.
Okay.
So,
When we get to the consent agenda, just make sure to note as amended, and we'll take care of adding that documentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for following up with her to let her know there's something else on the agenda coming up. I wonder if, since this is gonna be a topic for a long time, if we should set up a distribution subscription list for interested parties. So every time we have a wastewater or freshwater infrastructure project, that they get notified.
Yeah, Jeff, we used to have something like that. Is it still active?
We do still have it. What we ought to do is maybe just advertise it again, and more proactively. And then reach out to those folks whenever those items are on the agenda. That's a great idea.
We could put it in the next newsletter too, as just a information blast to click here to sign up, and then we'll reach out to those that have
And that'll
been.
be topic specific, wastewater specific. Perfect, love it. Thank you.
And that's all I have for follow-up.
Well, thank you. Nellie, would you like to come up and give us a report?
Yes. Okay.
I guess we thought we.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we thought they'd all be done, but they're stretching it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to give you a heads up that I know that our last meeting, we had the conversation about the OGC and the serial meetings. And I did have a good conversation with League of Oregon Cities and got kind of an update on what the process is likely going to look like. What they're trying to do, and I'm just pulling up a picture of my notes that I just took, but there's going to be a bill in the 2026 legislative session that will be likely out of the Rules Committee. And the goal is essentially to remove the food, they call it the hot dog exception that happened down in Salem, as well as an exoneration for the letters of violations that have already been passed out as a result of this kind of overstep on the OGAC's portion of it.
On the food part of it?
On the food and on the internal conversations that have been happening, if anyone did in fact receive one of those letters. That is the ask as of now. Obviously, it's still in the preliminary phases, and the special session is kind of putting this on the back burner a little bit as we come back on Wednesday to have a conversation about the transportation package. In the Senate will convene, and then the House is actually supposed to convene on Friday. I just learned, if they do in fact pass it in the Senate. But, so there is a process on that. This is, of course, a Band-Aid step in 2026. And then I think that they would come back in 2027 to really, at least LOC's plan is to come back a bit heavier in 2027 to get a more full story. I know that Representative Courtney Neron, who was kind of the preliminary, part of the reason we're in this situation is because of her, has kind of admitted that this is not the path that she had intended we go down, and that she would be supportive of this bill. And so there are still a few legislators like Sosa that got to kind of delicately work through this process. And so LOC has specifically asked that, we be supportive when they ask us to, but not necessarily be incredibly overzealous on it on our part. That being said, of course, I would take direction from all of you. So I'm just saying that was what I was told.
How much do we trust LOC, I guess?
Well, you will have an opportunity in, gosh,
Couple
3 weeks?
Yeah, couple weeks, yeah. Yeah.
To be at the conference and pick everyone's ear about this topic as well. So I think we'll see what comes of that meeting.
We have an even sooner opportunity. I missed, I was cleaning up my inbox in a legal way, not.
Of course.
Just refiling it into different junk folders and whatever to keep, but archiving it, but there was an old OJEC, is that
OGEC.
OGEC survey on how are we doing, you know? And so then I kind of forwarded to him, I said, because it said, oh, here's our annual survey. I said, you know, and she said, oh, yeah, we sent that and it was in July. So I'm gonna forward that to everybody, or I'm gonna forward it to Jeff and he's gonna forward it to everybody because I don't want to have a serial meeting. And but that's a survey that you should have, that you should take the opportunity to comment on. What my question for you, Nellie, is I don't quite understand how all the city councils are set to one set of rules for public meetings, but all the legislatures have a totally different set that doesn't appear to be hardly anything at all. And yet we, you know, are being told that we shouldn't talk to the media or to our constituents or to Lindy for coffee or any of that kind of silliness.
I mean, you're 100% right. I agree with everything. You know, it's just a matter of haphazard rules that were passed that are being enacted. I don't even know the right way to say this, but it's just, I mean, the legislature does have a history of passing things that they don't fully think through. And I think that this is one of those results. And unfortunately, it dramatically affects all city councils in this entire state. And
But
it's,
is the law, so there's the public meetings law. That's kind of the concern. That's the overreaching thing. And doesn't that apply equally to everybody?
Is it the rulemaking or the law that's?
Yeah.
well, it's a combination, I think, honestly. I mean, I think basically it was the law that was passed and then the rulemaking just further. I'm trying to, I'm trying to,
Add in there.
yes, thank you.
Well, yeah, it seems like they made a lot of
It
rules
is-
for us, but not for them.
It's a open question in Oregon whether the public meetings law does in fact apply to the legislature. So that is one of the things that I think should be motivating the legislature to fix this. Because obviously it would be impossible with their way of doing business to comply with serial meetings law. So that's one message that I've tried to convey. The issue here is both the law itself, but even more so how that law is being interpreted by the OGEC. And so there's been a lot of effort made to try to convince OGEC to interpret the law in a different way, which has so far been unsuccessful. And so that's why, as Nellie's talking about, the next step is going back to the legislature to try to get them to more clearly delineate what is and is not unlawful. So OGEC has to then follow that.
Right, but you know, when we're talking about 2027 and it, you know, I just don't understand how that's a workable solution in the interim. Can somebody help me understand how we're supposed to just operate in the interim?
And I think the idea is that the most egregious issues would be fixed in 2026.
Correct.
And then 2027 would be an opportunity for a more comprehensive look at what government ethics law should be more broadly. Not just these narrow issues where there's an immediate problem.
Because I mean, whatever the training, I mean, I did get the training when I first got on city, I'm sure you all did too, of, you know, not having serial meetings, you know, be mindful of how many people are there and don't, you know, don't go talk to her and then to them and, you know, and I understood those and I could work around that framework. Is that not an adequate interim solution?
That is the framework that everybody has understood what that to be what the law means for many years.
Right.
And that is not the way that OGC interprets the law. So the risk in the interim is that if you continue to follow those previous guidelines and somebody files a complaint, OGC is going to say that you still violated.
Okay, but who made them, you know, keeper of the, rule book and enforcing all the rules? I mean, can that be
That's
for
the
now until it gets
legislature.
cleaned
The
up?
legislature gave them
So I mean, that
the
would be the first thing is
agency.
to kind of just say, they're no longer, I mean, if that's how they're gonna interpret things, then the short-term solution is there's some other body that gets given those responsibilities that aren't quite so unworkable.
This can't be solved in this room, though.
No, I understand, but I mean.
But I did
but these two
enjoy
people.
the state of Oregon and government ethics being put in the same sentence.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to pass on.
Or maybe you hire an attorney and you challenge them.
There you go.
That's the only other
I
alternative.
think the other thing, I think it is unlikely that a different agency gets put in charge of these issues. It's possible, but probably unlikely. Having more local government representation on OGEC, I think would be helpful.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, okay, so
right
that's-
now,
People who understand how local government works.
All right, so when I send out the OGEC survey, that would be a good, and that's why I kind of brought this up, is because I want to hear from you all, what are some workable short-term interim solutions, and that would be something that we could.
If anybody wants to apply to be appointed to the commission.
I think there might be a couple open seats or
there-
opening
there are-
seats,
there are some
actually.
open seats right now.
I really want somebody like me questioning authority.
It's a-
I have not
I
had a
think
case
it'd
with
be
it.
great.
I don't think I can apply.
Biltmore.
And it's like, do you get a
As I
time on
recall,
your
I
back?
think it's a volunteer position, but you do get food at meetings.
Oh, yeah, they used to serve really good food, I know.
So
That's-
I do have a question on as far as their time, where their interpretation is, because when we last talked, there was something that was probably them. They have a handbook for a guide for public officials, which is kind of what we all got trained on, right? It's published on 2021. Are they going to put out a new version of that with these new and improved rules, or is it all just gonna be kind of?
They have put out a separate serial meetings guideline document.
Okay.
Which they have described as a living document. They're going to be continually updating as this evolves.
And it will be at the LOC meeting. It'll be one of the offerings, of course.
Do we know where to find this living document? It's not on their main page.
I can forward you that email, or Jeff can, I think.
Okay.
That was in one of my bits.
All right, Jeff, when I send you that, would you pass that survey around to everybody?
Certainly will. And Mayor, you mentioned the conference coming up. I just thought I would use this quick opportunity. The deadline to register is this Friday. If there's any counselor who hasn't yet told me they want to go, please let me know as soon as possible.
I do think it would be very useful to have as many of you there as can attend, because it would be nice to, for LOC to hear your feedback in terms of what would really be helpful in terms of what this is ultimately going to look like. I think they have a really good base framework right now, but I mean, it's September, so they've got a few months to kind of massage that until it will actually go before the legislature, so.
Okay, any updates on the transportation stuff?
Well, that is, your guess is about as good as mine. I did learn, kind of the reason why Senator Gorsuch was not able to be there to take the vote. Unfortunately, he suffered a stroke, and so he's been going through some severe rehab for that. And so their Senate is still set. It has not changed as of today that it would reconvene on the 17th. And all thoughts would be that, in theory, this should pass. Stranger things have happened in the last, year. But, well, I guess I should say 9 months, but feels like a year. But if, assuming he's able to come back and the vote is taken and everything goes as planned, the House would come back and everything would get finalized on Friday, the 19th. If that does not happen, there's always an opportunity for a second special session. There's always an opportunity to pass this, kind of kick the can down the road until February. You will have some new legislative changes. I'm not sure if you all heard, but Senator Bonham has decided to resign October 5th. And
To move where?
Not gonna finish his.
he's not going to finish his
term?
term. And he, as of today, and he is actually supposedly, the rumor mill at least is that he's looking at a job with former Congresswoman Lori Chavez DeRemer in the Labor Department. And so basically that would mean that seat is open, and the two representatives that are open to that would be Representative Helfrich and Representative Drazen, and he is and already endorsed Christine Drazen for that position. So she's welcomed it with open arms. I mean, obviously, it's an appointment process that will go through Clackamas County, but big changes, and then obviously she would need to have her position appointed in the meantime, assuming she is the one that's selected. So,
And is she thinking of running for governor too? Or-
yes, but she can do both, because it would basically be working through the 2026 session and then running for governor. So she's open arms and has not said that she would not run for governor as a result of that. She was still open to that, so.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the most conciliatory.
Well,
To get stuff through.
well, and honestly, Representative Helfrich had announced his candidacy like midway through the legislative session for Bonham's seat. So for Bonham, it's getting a little muddy.
No surprise.
Huh, tell us more about the short-term session. The
The 2026
26, yeah.
2026, well, I think it's all gonna come down to what happens in the next couple of days. I'm happy to send you guys a report once we know what's happening. I would, obviously the OGEC is going to be a very important piece of that. That's going to be kind of on the side burner, though. It's not gonna be the main point of the legislative session. And so it's gonna be interesting to see if we come back and it's a kind of double down on the transportation side of things. And quite frankly, leadership has not really indicated a firm direction in terms of what they want to do. Obviously, the budget cycle is going to be an issue. We're concerned about financing. We're concerned about, what does the budget look like? The special session was special session, the short session that was always called the special session. But the short session was literally meant to rebalance the budget depending on what the income is and the revenue is. And it's going to be interesting to see if maybe it is a simple financial session, because I mean, Oregon has a lot to look at right now, and we've got a lot of issues that quite frankly, watching the income tax base go down and everything that we're facing, it's, what do we do and how are we going to address it? So I think we'll know more in the next coming weeks as soon as we get through the special session, but it's abnormally paused because this has been drawn out so long.
So there was quite a few things that got, that she vetoed that freed up more than $40 million. I know that. And so my question is, obviously some of that could then be cycled back to transportation, but is there an opening for any of that to give us another, run it?
Yeah, so I need to go back and look at the actual number, because the Willamette Locks,
Yeah.
that ended up not getting vetoed.
Oh.
The portion that was the Cape Brown section,
Yeah.
so that didn't get vetoed after
Oh,
all. It was, I mean, it was rumored.
Okay.
It was going to be, that didn't end up getting vetoed. That was on the chopping block. It was all over the news. And so I think we all just assumed, at least I did. At least I did, that it was going to be chopped, but it ended up not happening. There was a kind of negotiations between the tribes and everyone. And so it ended up not getting chopped. So that money is still allocated for that project. So we'll have to go, I will go back and I can get back to you on the exact dollar amount. But I do think
was vetoed that might be freed up.
my personal recommendation would be to put in another dollar ask. I mean, it's gonna be a small Hail Mary, I would probably say, for a short session, given the budgetary restraints that we're facing right now. But it doesn't hurt to keep the conversation going and be in front of legislators and have those conversations that this is the situation we're in. Thank you for what we got. And definitely thank you for what we got. But I mean, it's just a little portion of what our ratepayers are facing. And, just to keep in front of them and let them know, and especially to the Ways and Means co-chairs and just to stay in front of them and keep those relationships building, I think is really important, and federal as well. So.
Any other questions?
Thank
Thank you
you,
very
and
much.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to commandeer the.
No,
No, you're fine.
Hear about it and make sure that you get home at a decent hour. I know you got a long drive.
Thanks for
Thanks so
coming.
much.
Thanks, Millie.
Thanks.
Okay, we have the next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda has the city council minutes from August 18th. I already kind of listed these, the grant application for the solar panels at the new transit building, the staff, the Title VI requirements for the transit, and the TriMet stiff IGA modification.
And Mayor,
may I
just
have-
as a reminder, we wanted to add
And
as an attachment to the
amendment.
minutes,
Yeah,
Tyler's response to Mr. X.
Right, yes, thank you very much. Amended to add the response that Tyler wrote out to Mr. Exner onto the draft minutes.
so I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Counselor Smallwood and a second from Counselor Mayton to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, my favorite subject, the alternative wastewater systems.
Everybody's favorite.
Everybody's favorite. Yeah,
I'm gonna save you a few seconds and just turn it right over to Josh and let him dive in.
great, thank you.
And since we've been talking about this a lot, unless anybody has any objections, I'm going to skip over all the
Please.
introductory stuff and just get right to the.
Fantastic.
Let's change.
And we appreciate all the changes you have made, Doug.
So there are two versions of this ordinance in your packet. The original that was considered and passed through the first reading, and a alternative version. And that alternative version includes a number of changes based on the feedback that we've received recently. And I'll just run through those changes real quick. It eliminates what we had previously, a two-path review process based on the type of system proposed. So we had the simpler path for porta potties and gray water systems, and then a second path. It eliminates that and collapses it into a single review process with the same criteria for all types of alternative wastewater systems. The second one is that it eliminates some of the other references to those specific system types and then just generalizes the code language as a result of that. It adds an approval criterion requiring that ERUs not be available for the proposed development at the time that the permit application is submitted. And we clarified in there too, that an ERU is not considered available if the only way that you could get an ERU is by transferring it from some other property to the property that you're trying to build on. Fourth category of change is eliminating the approval criterion related to public facing, the public facing nature of the business. The fifth is adding a condition of approval to ensure that interior fixtures are rendered inoperable or inaccessible if necessary based on the type of alternative system being proposed. That's based on some discussion, or there wasn't specifically direction on that, but we figured while we're in there, we'll address that issue. Modified some of the definitions to align with those changes, and then some minor language cleanups and clarifications. I'm happy. Go ahead.
Interrupt you really quick, Josh, because Mayor, I turned it over to Josh before you had a chance to read.
I was gonna say,
all of
isn't this,
your opening.
I was gonna just ask that, I was
dialogue.
like, isn't this a public hearing?
So-
Oh, that's right. We are doing a public
I
hearing. Yes.
apologize. I jumped the gun there and got us going too quick.
All right. So, I am going to reopen the public hearing.
Yep.
And for ordinance number 2025-17, and the time of the hearing is at 7:30 is opened. I'm gonna call for any abstentions. Any abstentions? No, hearing none. May I call for any conflicts of interest, please? Any? None, hearing none. I'll call for the staff report, which we were in the middle of. Do you have any additional comments on the staff report?
No, I wouldn't say we were in the middle. I'd say we were at the end. Just going to ask if you had any questions.
Good job. Okay. So the hearing process for the public testimony, each person providing testimony must provide their name and address to the record. If you do not wish to state your address publicly, You must provide it to the city recorder before you begin your testimony. This can be done either in person or via email at recorder@ci.sandy.or.us. If you have documents that you wish to be considered by the council, they must be formally placed into the record of this hearing. To do that, either before or after you speak, email your materials to recorder@ci.sandy.or.us, and staff will make sure your evidence is properly processed. Please try to avoid repetition. If someone else has already expressed the same thoughts, it's fine to simply state that you agree with the testimony of the previous speaker. To offer public testimony, for those wanting to join us in person this evening, please raise your hand to indicate you would like to speak. If you are attending online, click the raise hand button and wait to be recognized. If you are attending via telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. I will call on each person when it is their turn to speak. Each speaker will have received up to 5 minutes to testify. The city recorder will let you know when you have 20 seconds remaining. So is there anyone here tonight who would like to testify? Jeff, is there anyone online who would like to testify?
Mayor, I'll look for any raised hands on Zoom. And no, Mayor, I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, can the staff please give us a recap and recommendation?
So my recap would be that there are two versions of the operative code language in front of you, the original and the modified version. Your choices tonight are to approve the original, approve the modified version, or discuss additional changes, or neither. And so happy to answer any questions to help you make one of those choices.
So point of order, would this be considered the first reading amended, or the second reading amended?
This is the second reading,
Okay,
and you can approve either the original or the amended version as part of that second reading.
thank you.
And hopefully for the council's convenience, we tried to color code them in the packet.
Yep.
Okay.
Any discussion? Because I'm ready to make a motion.
Yeah, I have some. So, are there any questions or comments from you all on this side?
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right one. Exhibit A, code amendments revised, alternative 9825 is Plan B.
That's the green one, yes.
Thank you.
Green. Mine have no same thought. Okay, how about on this end? Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay.
Just, I do, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Just for general, make sure I have it right. Option B is more restricted. Right, in general. And it makes it align with the economic development plan exclusively. Is the way I,
You mean the amended version?
yes.
No.
Versus the first one. So the green
I would have a
one-
hard time saying one is more or less restrictive because there are changes that go in both ways with the revised version. So with the original version, for example, if you had a public facing business, you were ineligible. And in the second version, that's not the case. A public facing business would be eligible. But then, so that's more loose in the second version. But then the second version also includes a lot more restrictive language as well about has to align with the economic development plan, the ERU availability.
Right.
So there's, and some of the subjective criteria apply to all applications, not just to some applications. So on balance, probably more restrictive, but there are some important distinctions that go the other way as well.
That's all I have, thanks.
What I've seen changed is, first of all, these alternative systems are only if there's not ERUs available. That they are required to install the improvements, short of hooking up to the sanitary sewer. But on the other hand, they're also allowed to install these alternative sanitary sewer infrastructure. It's kind of a little bit undefined as to how long they're able to keep that. It's basically saying that they can keep it to the shelf life of the product. So 60, 80 years or something for a sewer, help me out. Septic, thank you. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing to me that they've put in all the connections to hook up to the sewer, but then they're able to stay on the septic for that long, conceivably.
That's a little bit loose and but I guess I could live with that. The one thing that I have trouble with and that's just holding me back is that all of a sudden we are now allowing, what I call, I think we talked about it before, porta potties for Chipotle, or, as an example. And so, not that I think Chipotle would even move in that direction. But my concern is that all of a sudden, a box store or something like that could go forward with portable toilets and having, dealt with portable toilet, vault toilets and portable toilets and all that most of my career, that just feels a bit like a certain part of the country where, it doesn't feel very the image that I want to have it's a little bit
But we would have to approve it, so I
Yes,
mean, you
exactly.
have
I
to
know we
blame the
didn't,
council.
but we could, and so that's my concern is that why would we kind of, I feel like it's okay if it's just not a forward facing public store or something like that. And if it is, I think they should just go ahead and put in a septic tank to deal with it.
Then that's.
Then that's what
we would
council
approve.
that's what council approves.
Okay, I understand that, but what we're allowing them also is to just go with some porta potties.
No,
No.
not if it does, there has to get approval by council.
But they could, you could, I could be outvoted, no problem, if, I don't know, if
But if,
that's some, I guess what I'm just saying is that
but the
I
ordinance can
wouldn't
be
even,
overturned.
let me just finish.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to see porta potties be a viable option for public facing facilities. Especially box stores or restaurants or Chipotle's or anything like that. So,
Completely agree with you.
yeah.
I just think that,
We were trying not to be too regulatory
right,
and to give this body the ability, this was a lengthy conversation. The last time we talked about this was to give this body the ability then to determine what type of system that would be.
Right, so you could explicitly prohibit porta potties for public facing operations. That is an
And I can even
option.
put a time limit, like
You-
longer than 120 days or something like that. I mean, if it truly is just a gap measure, or something like that, I could go along with it, but if we're talking 3 years, I'm not.
The code also, as written, would, I think, under criterion EI, which is about the materially detrimental or injurious to the public welfare, would allow council to deny a porta potty in that situation.
Yes.
The other thing we talked about at length at the planning commission was all porta potties are not created equal. There are the trailers that are rented for weddings, and I used it at Target when they were under construction for about 18 months, I think it was, that are almost indistinguishable from a regular bathroom. They have running water and toilets that flush. Very different than the blue room style.
The blue room?
Yeah. So that was, there are different ways that we can approach writing the code. We can write it with more prescriptive, specific language, or we can keep it more open-ended. But I guess my point is, this does not require you to approve porta potties in that situation. You are right that it would allow you to if council determined that the particular scenario was
Porta
not.
potties could be in there for a store or a restaurant like that for like years on end.
well.
If council determined it complied with those criteria, it could, yes.
That Target was a great example,
18 months under construction, that's a long time.
but
Right.
not unreasonable.
No,
I mean, but
not
what
at all.
about 5 years? Is that okay too?
But again, council has to approve it.
Right.
I just
I mean,
want to know what I'm saying yes to.
You're signing,
You're so-
Yeah.
you're saying yes to the ability to bring a specific proposal to the council before we get a go ahead.
Well,
And that can have the end of life in that, I would expect end of
Yeah.
life in that, the
Yeah.
transition plan, all those aspects have to be in that proposal.
like I said, having dealt with portable toilets and
Yeah,
the problems that they don't get cleaned and all that other stuff, it makes me
I
very
think-
reluctant to
I
say
think
that we
everyone
want that
agrees
kind of
with you.
image in Sandy. But I also had my questions answered and I appreciate your patience. So could somebody want to make a motion?
I have minor questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Before we do that, what's a screening plan under C? 84.70.
Yeah.
C, what's a screening plan?
So that relates to the criterion E1G, the alternative wastewater system will be fully screened from view from public right of way and adjacent properties.
Is that clear enough that those are linked?
Yeah, I think within the land use realm, people know what screening plan means.
Okay.
And also
Answer my
they have
question.
to submit documentation to show that all the criteria are met regardless.
Yeah, no, you answered the question. That was,
Yeah.
not familiar for me, but others smarter.
And these still have to be approved by DEQ and the county. for things.
I would like to, are you done, Don? I would like to call for the second reading of the alternative Exhibit A alternative wastewater ordinance 9-8-25.
Which version? Do we have to call for?
A revised
I think we have to
alternative
just say-
Exhibit A, yeah,
Exhibit A.
yeah.
So, yeah, so this is ordinance 2025-17, an ordinance amending chapters 1712 and 1784 related to alternative wastewater systems. And for the record, this is with Exhibit A Code Amendments Revised Alternative 9-8-25.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. May I have a motion to, I called for the second reading.
Wait a
That
minute.
was the second reading, right?
And
And that-
in layman's language, is that the green one?
That's the green one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, and I might have gotten that
Hold on, Mayor,
backwards.
hold on.
We need to close
Close the
the
public.
public.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
you're right.
Thank you.
That's not on my page.
Yeah,
Okay, no, it is. Okay. It's
so I
not-
move to close the public hearing.
Okay,
A second.
okay, I have a motion from Counselor
Hokanson.
Hokanson and a second by Counselor Smallwood to close the public hearing. All those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
All those against, vote nay. Public hearing is closed. Okay. Jeff has read the second reading of ordinance 2025-17. And I have a motion from Counselor Smallwood, is that right? Who's the second?
I'll second
A second by Counselor
it. Hokanson.
Hokanson to approve the second reading. This reading is a second reading of the amended ordinance. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Against, vote nay. Motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2025-17 as amended passed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get that up about every way we could.
Oh, well, interesting. How that all.
That was good.
Good night,
Thank you guys for the
It gives us some
rewrite.
alternatives.
That was a lot of
Yep.
stuff you incorporated.
Well, and thank you for your
Yeah.
patience in allowing us the time to rewrite and bring it back. It wasn't in that 2-week turnaround that we were shooting for, but we made it in 4 weeks, and so here we are.
What's the timing for having this then become effective?
30 days.
30 days. We need to do some internal work as well during that time. So 30 days.
Right, so you'll let people who care know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Interested parties have been keeping tabs on this, and Kelly and his staff have been keeping them in the loop as far as a work session was scheduled to talk about this, or council meetings been scheduled to talk about this.
I assume then staff what, I'm sorry, can I, just a minute for implementation? Sorry to just assume. So I assume staff can work on preparing what constitutes a proposal that will be brought to council. So that there's guidance and we don't just have
Like an application.
we don't want them to
form?
waste time and we don't want them to waste our time, so make sure it's,
An outline that tells them what they have. to do.
yeah, that would be great.
The
I
application
believe
and the
we
screening.
started,
Right, whatever.
a
the ultimate
template.
comes.
I just don't know
Well, they
what,
may have, I don't know where
Yeah.
that.
I don't know where that is currently. And obviously we weren't gonna finalize something without knowing which path we were taking, but yes, we will put the finishing touches on that.
I just want to make sure that
application
those applicants
process.
know what's expected.
Absolutely.
It'll be a top priority.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, for making all those changes and AJ for helping out. So do we have a report from the city manager?
Yes, first,
Thanks,
Thanks,
AJ,
AJ.
good night.
thanks,
Good
AJ.
night, AJ.
First, I wanted to just say congratulations to Chief. He's out there ignoring us currently. But congratulations to Chief on completing the FBI National Academy. Welcome back. Thank you for returning to us and not running away after having a taste of freedom, although it probably wasn't really freedom, but you weren't doing your day job. And with that, also thank you to Lieutenant Craven for stepping in and working as acting chief during Chief Husky's absence. Appreciate all of Lieutenant Craven's time and effort keeping the wheels on the bus, so to speak, and making sure we continue to do good work here. Also wanted to give a quick thank you to staff, although AJ just left, for taking time out of their Saturday to do the wastewater treatment plant tour. I think that was a great way to spend about an hour and a half and get everyone up to speed. For those of you that weren't in attendance, I am happy to debrief with you or schedule a separate visit down there so you can see the work. Just let me know what works best for you. We have a couple project updates as far as street paving goes. So Meinig and Pleasant Street are both done. Meinig still needs to be striped, but it is very flat, very pretty, very nice to drive on. So very excited about those things. We've also got the work on 362nd and Champion as well. That's happening this week. Both of those projects are going to be done overnight. So 362nd will be is scheduled for the night of the 17th, and Champion scheduled for the night of the 18th. Big driver there was to reduce the impact to those businesses to make sure that they could have day patrons during the day and their normal business hours. Excuse me. And then just wanted to give you a quick heads up that Chief Husky and I are working on getting a meeting scheduled with the school district to continue to talk about the most notably pickup time frame of traffic. Sounds like still problems in the morning, although the morning is less of an issue as the afternoon traffic is what my understanding is. I know Chief said that this morning's traffic at the high school was next to none. So I think perhaps some of those, first couple weeks of school kinks have been worked out, but we are going to meet with the school district to continue to discuss how to better mitigate the congestion that happens there. We've also got there were two, I believe, no parking or stopping signs that were installed on Bell near that Jewelberry intersection. We've got a couple more that we're planning to put on Bluff between Hood and the driveway of Cedar Ridge Middle School. Thank you. So some real short-term things that we can just throw up quickly to make it very clear and noticeable that there's no parking or stopping in some of those areas.
They say no parking, but see, those people don't think they're parking.
Okay.
That's
Well,
the problem.
I just want to let you know we're working on it. We've
got
got,
Okay.
we're working on getting a meeting scheduled. So I'll have more to share at the next council meeting or sooner if I have any information to share sooner via email. I think that's it.
Thank you. Okay.
You're probably already gonna do this, but you might just discuss with them, like, information regarding how parents should do that pickup. But they send out stuff all summer long, and it should go out with all that information, the beginning of the school year information.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be dealing with this at the start of every school year. This is unacceptable.
They did a good job of the Kelso one, because the Kelso school was spilling out onto Kelso and blocking that up towards Orient and stuff. And so they've got this kind of, maze-like thing in the parking lot that some parents are skipping and ignoring it, but it's adequate to meet the demand and keep people off of Bluff. And it's just kind of deciding to do the same thing in all these other places that they have here available in the high school and using the north side of Hood. That's got legal parking all along it and there's nobody parked there, and yet they're backed up to the
Just
Highway
pick
26.
them up down by the football stadium. They can.
No, I mean for the middle
Oh,
school.
the
though.
middle school. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, the north side of
Yeah.
Hood,
Fair, yep.
it's got nobody parked there and yet they're.
But like, Bell Street, unfortunately, for any resident that's trying to get down Bell Street, doesn't realize that's what's going on. You get stuck in that, you're stuck.
Yeah,
There's no way to get out. So.
that's just, yeah. Okay, start with Counselor Hoganson. Thank you, Kyle.
All right, well, on my neighbor is smooth. The proof will be when it gets hot next year.
Yep.
And if it's not after next year, then we're gonna need something better.
We will explore our options at that point. So-
I didn't hear, what was the problem?
The problem with
Paving?
Meinig is that it's not just the road wears out, it's because of the turning of the heavy trucks, it actually, it's a lateral push. And so asphalt's terrible at dealing with pushes sideways. It's good at up and down, but it's not good this way. So I strongly suspect that next summer we'll have a heat wave and we'll have the same old problems out there until that becomes reinforced concrete or something. So, but we'll cross fingers out for that. We had a Sandy Net meeting. It was long. We haven't met in a while. It's been a month since we met, right? So yes, the Sandy Net meeting quite a while ago, so I barely remember what we talked about, but I'm sure it was really good stuff. I know they were excited, the master plan was up and going, the rate increase had taken effect, and they were starting to see some results. One of the things they were watching for was when people drop them, and that seems very small. You know, at that point, it seemed like noise, people coming and going, as far as that goes. And then we talked through the CBX construction IJ, which at some point, I don't know if that can be council already or it's
It's coming in October.
coming in October. And we did propose a number of changes in there to just kind of strengthen Sandy's position and limit our liability there. So
Are we meeting on that, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab you and Counselor Hokinson after this, and that's a separate
Okay,
conversation, but
thank you.
yes.
okay. And then started talking about facility update and obviously they're moving ahead with plans, and one of the things that I'd like to see is that we leverage these various facility update needs from various departments, and we don't get too siloed in terms of this development. So my ask of you, Tyler, is just to make sure that we're leveraging resources, not having to retrain the same people to do things that others maybe are better at or know how to do. And that's not to say Greg couldn't build a great facility, but that's not why we hired him, right?
Yep.
We hired him for technical and running the IT department. So just want to make sure he's got full support and that we're also planning, you know, the budgets and everything else are all aligned if that's going to become a reality down the road. And the rural expansion update, I think, was pretty much disappointment. It didn't look like we're gonna get a whole lot of new stuff there. So the existing Marmot Road, was that right?
Are we talking about BEAD or the rural?
The last
criteria?
one, the last rural expansion update.
That was just, we were getting started to start applying the criteria.
Oh, for the local stuff. Thank you. So I probably should just turn time over to Greg, let him do it because he did it better. In fact, that's one of the things I think we talked about, is having him come just do work session every now and then, brief everybody on what's going on there. So they're doing great. I think that's all I have. Thanks for the work on the burn. Big time.
I'll piggyback off of that if I may, just quickly. Kicking around ideas of how to get various department heads in front of the council on a more regular basis. For those that don't have items that come before you very often, I hate that you see them once a year or once every 2 years, just a goal setting. So trying to figure out just a more informal, maybe it's a work session, maybe it's some other setting, but get people like the library director or Greg or someone else that isn't routinely here, just to have some face time, give you updates on what's going on with their departments, so we can have a little more fluidity into those relationships instead of we're here for the budget or we're here for goal setting and that's it.
I think we should, even if it's the work session or just an expanded item, I would support that.
Thank you.
Right. All right, so after our last meeting was the real long one. And I neglected to report on the library. That we had just had a meeting. There are a few grants that they've applied for and they're waiting to hear back. One, the Oregon Community Fund grant, they've applied for $40,000 and they'll hear back in November. The Ford Family Foundation grant, they applied for $25,000. This is all for the mobile library. And they'll hear back in 8 to 10 weeks. So we're getting closer on that one. And then they're also preparing a Roundhouse Foundation grant. The ask is $25,000 for that. While we are talking about library fundraising, they are doing a Dine Around Sandy, Fuel the Mobile Library.
And tomorrow is the next date. So we've got Boring Brewing.
Thank you. I was just looking for that.
Thank you. Boring Brewing, tomorrow from 3 to 8. On Thursday, the 18th, Scoop and Swirl from 4 to 8. And then on Tuesday, September 23rd, Brady's Brats from noon to 8. And then also Welch's Rendezvous tomorrow from 3 to 8. So if anyone feels like going fancy. Oh, sorry, that's Thursday.
Can you send that or have
It's-
somebody send that?
We can send it out. I think I may have some handouts upstairs as well that I can snag and give you before you leave today, if that's easier.
Electronics preferably.
Okay.
I mean,
Yep.
And then we had a library task force meeting, but I'm gonna defer to the mayor for an update on that, because she's very highly involved. And that's it. Thank you.
all right.
Wow, that was fast. I had a.
Mayor, do we need Chancellor Sheldon?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
Rich. Sorry, Rich, I got ahead of you.
No worries. I don't have anything tonight anyways. Thank you.
So I did have a meeting, Parks and Rec. And then I went on a tour, so I'll do the Parks and Rec first. That one, we gave support, the board gave support for a T-Mobile fund. For the mining park, trying to get a grant for that. And then, we talked about a little bit about the ongoing events. The director is still out for recruitment. And then John gave an update on Winterfest, and he did give some dates, so I wanted to make sure I just shared those for people that might want them. The tree lighting is scheduled for November 21st. And that's an important day for everybody here. Pet pictures on December 5th. And then Estampa and Santa on December 12th. Shortest Day Walkway, Friday, December 19th. The Stocking Stroll, December 20th. The Winterfest Fun Run Walk was January 3rd. And then a holiday happy hour Saturday, January 3rd in the evening. So those are just some pre-clued on some dates coming up for Winterfest, which is very popular in this town. So I just want to share that. And then I had the fortune to attend a tour of the wastewater plant on Jarl Road. My first time there to that plant, and it was smelly. And education.
It's still smelling good.
So,
comparatively.
I want to say thank you to AJ who's gone, and his couple people he had on the ground. I think their names were Kaylee and Kyle. They were both K names, I remember, but I don't remember the exact. It's like Kayla and Kyle or something like that. Anyway, I asked a lot of questions, and they really do really good work over there, and they know their stuff. And I was just impressed with both of the employees that run that facility. And then, of course, and his name is escaping me, the one that did all the talking.
Ryan Wood.
Ryan, that's it, Ryan, sorry, Ryan. And then Ryan was our tour guide, so it was a good experience, and I was glad. And to take Don's message, he said at the beginning, when we were there, he said, once you finish, you'll never throw some things in the toilet again. And he's probably right. I'm not gonna admit that I ever threw anything bad down it, but I'm definitely not gonna do anything like that again if it was done. So, thanks, Don.
Yeah. And we did talk of just on that, we did talk about, Tyler, just maybe it was just you and me, but the idea of maybe opening that up to public tours at some point in time.
Yeah, it was a casual, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was a casual conversation that Counselor Hokinson and I had, but I think, you know, I've been there a handful of times. Some of you hadn't been there at all. You learn something new every time you go, and it's really, I hate to say like interesting, right? But it's an
totally
interesting,
Really interesting.
it's an interesting facility to walk through. It's really fascinating to see how it all works and where things go and what gets separated and what gets treated. And I think with all this work that we're doing related to wastewater, it wouldn't be a bad idea to, you know, provide the public an opportunity to see what happens after you flush your toilet. And so I need to talk to staff, obviously, about
A good
what
supply
sort
of nose plugs would be well.
nose plugs. Yeah, we can do that. I need to figure out exactly what the, you know, any sort of liability that comes along with that is, but we're gonna explore, kick that idea around to see if we can just get better communication and information around how wastewater works. And you know, what to flush, what not to flush.
Angie says she wants all the staff to go down.
Yeah.
Well, it's really amazing because you see the hard, solid waste at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And then he took a stick and put a cup on the end and picked it up. The water that comes out of it, it looks like tap water.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't drink it, but it looks clear like tap water, and it's amazing the biological process that takes place with the added chemistry that we add for biology to make it change and how that works. And this old guy was impressed with it, and I think anybody who got to see it would be amazed.
It is not clear water that goes into that plant, but it is very clear water that comes out of it. And it's like, I don't know, it's cool to see.
Speaking, if you don't mind, Counselor, speaking of tours, and AJ is going to yell at me if plans have changed, but I believe we intend to give a tour to the Clackamas River Watershed Council within the next month as well, because they had asked for it.
Well,
So, just in terms of outreach,
Would you let us know what the date of that is?
Yeah,
as soon as I have it, yes.
some of us would
Okay.
like to attend.
Anybody else? Okay, got a few things. I did a ribbon cutting recently with the property that's next to the Bratzenbergers. It's really, that whole building in there has really been fixed up by Monica of Premier Properties. Monica Ferinhach and her company's president came, his name is John Wyron, and he and I talked quite a long while about, you know, SDCs and sewer and kind of some of the challenge, but he wrote me a thank you note that was here today about he's willing to kind of help us out with whatever kind of testimony is needed to help us on our efforts. So that was a great contact. Really appreciate AJ's and everybody else's staff work on the paving projects at Pleasant and Minot. I took pictures. They look, it's just such a pleasant drive now. Looking forward to the 362nd part. I am also anxious to see this school traffic pattern problem, you know, really get clear direction to the customers and all the other people affected by the customers, and clear signing, because, you know, if there's not clear signing, then it's, you know, and my husband, you know, we kind of argue about it sometimes. He's like, you know, hey, you just can't park in a bike lane. You don't need to put up a sign. Well, you know, I think you do, because, you know, if there's a sign there, it just makes it easier to enforce. And so, you know, but it's like all of us have to kind of step forward to get this implemented. The Oregon Trail School District has to decide where they want people to go in this huge area. Do they want to use the road behind there? Do they want to use the spot across the street? You know, whatever they want to do, but they need to kind of give enough capacity within their property to provide that drop-off pickup on both Cedar Ridge and the high school. And like I said, the Hood Street on legal parking needs to be explored too. We had a great meeting with John Lagarza, our economic development person. We're going to be having a new meeting. He's got some really exciting plans for us, and he's talked to a lot of the landowners in town that have businesses that could use some investments. And so he's really been trying to kind of find some opportunities and partnerships there. And so he will be bringing some information to the Economic Development Committee, but also then eventually to us. So real excited about that. That was a good investment. Really kudos to the parks folks. They replaced the bridge over there in Sandy Bluff Parks using the recycled wood from the windstorm we had over on Tickle Creek, and it's all cedar, looks great. And they also did a great job of the Johnston viewpoint. I don't know if you guys have seen that. You know, it's a viewpoint again. And so, like I always say, you know, it's either going to be a forest or it's going to be a viewpoint, but it's not both. So clearing that off, really, all the visitors are just loving it. So the one thing I will say on the parks though was that it appears, and I don't know all the facts, so I'm just going to withhold any judgment, but the scope of the paths in the mining park seems to have been slightly modified from what we have seen in the past. And I am concerned about trying, not everything on the whole park has to be ADA. You know, your goal is to make every destination, you know, the stage, the gazebo, the amphitheater, the toilets, the fantasy forest, the main point, you know, everything where it's a destination needs to be ADA.
but not every trail needs to be ADA, because then you end up with all these corkscrew zigzag things and everything gets paved, and it's just not a good look, so. I would like to kind of see if that's changed. I'd like to kind of make sure, because that's greatly adding to the cost, which is then forcing us to not be able to have as much money to do the riparian vegetation restoration, taking money from Fantasy Forest or I don't know what else, but I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we're not overspending on things that weren't in the goal setting.
The short answer, and we can dive into this more at a later date, but the short answer is that the scope has not changed drastically. We're not making every trail ADA compliant. There's sort of, I guess, 3 tiers of trails. There's ADA, right, for certain aspects. There's a couple ABA,
What is that?
accessible barrier, no. Now I'm gonna forget what the ABA is. It's not as strict as ADA, but not straight uphill, right? It's somewhere in between. And so there's a couple sections that we're shooting for that target. And sort of off the fly, I don't have what that grade is, but it's minor tweaks on a couple certain aspects that will make it more accessible than it is now, but not making it ADA compliant.
Architectural barriers.
Thank you. I knew there was a barrier in there, I just couldn't remember what it was. And then resurfacing of other trails that are existing, right? Just, where the roots have up.
But we are still pulling out some of the other stuff.
There's some realignment of trails. There's some that will be removed.
My memory serves me that they was less invasive for trees coming down too, on the re-scope of the ADA trail.
So our goal has been and continues to be mitigate tree removal as much as possible, with no interest in cutting down trees in that park unless they're a dead hazard tree that needs to be removed for safety reasons. Otherwise, we want to leave as much as we can there. So, happy to bring this back at a work session if there's a lot of council interest. But the short answer is that we're not making it entirely ADA. That would be exceedingly cost prohibitive. There's sections of the park that there would be no reason to have an ADA trail because there's nowhere to go, right? Going up, I forget is that Kimberly Court that comes out at the
top
southernmost section. You couldn't get a wheelchair or a walker sort of up that trail, right? So we're not trying to make it something like that ADA compliant. The goal is trying to get a couple of those shelters that are right down here.
Yeah.
So that someone with a accessibility
sure.
issue could reach those. And then well, that's the short answer. Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't a
Well,
very short answer, but that's the shortest
yeah.
answer I can.
Who else going to the LSC conference?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay,
Councilor Sheldon's going as well.
yeah, okay, very good. And then the volunteer picnic is the first night of the LSC conference, so next year we're gonna plan that differently.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make up a little thank you card to give out in my absence, because I feel bad about not being there. We had a meeting with Councilor Ramsayer and Councilor Henley about the special services grants with Jeff participating, and that went very well. We had a lot of applications and it was very competitive, so stay tuned for that. I did enjoy, even though it's, we call it the poo-poo plant, that's what my kids called it back in the day, but the progress that has been seen and demonstrated to all of us at the wastewater treatment plant tour was absolutely phenomenal. They've done such a good job at getting, I think Veolia is doing a good job, and then all our staff are just so on top of overseeing all that and getting these projects done and getting them done quickly so that we can kind of get things online and get these ERUs sooner than later. So really excited about that. We did have a subcommittee meeting where we talked about the water side of things, and that was also some really good news about things coming in. We expect some contracts to be coming in under bid, hopefully. So that's going to be exciting news to be able to kind of reduce the costs and ultimately hopefully help a little bit with utility rates. I like the idea of having an email list for the water and the wastewater to be able to kind of reach out to folks and let them know of any field trips or meetings and things like that.
The library task force that Lindy had, mentioned is something it's a county task force. Kind of the short answer is there's 4 recommendations. One of them is to everybody agrees that we should be allowed to use our district funds for some facilities work on our libraries. So if the HVAC breaks, we probably would throw some general funds at it, but we also have the ability to use our district funds for repairing that because everybody's paying into the district and everybody's using the facility. So it's not really fair to make just the city residents pay for a library that everybody's using. The second one was kind of looking at the service levels at all our libraries to see if there's some disparities. That really does have to, in my opinion, has to do with how much funding they each have. And that's where, as much as everybody likes to talk about equity, and they all agreed that equity was really important here, the fact of the matter is that all the unincorporated areas get the same amount of money, but the cities, we've got some cities getting 3 times as much. And actually, it's only like 3 or 4. It's only one city that's getting 3 times as much as anybody else as the lowest. But there's still 2 or 3 cities that are much more well off than the rural cities that are getting, double. One gets $82, we get about $31. Malala gets about 26. So a lot of disparity, and it's not at all equitable. And I'm not even trying to push for equity, even Stephen, but I would like to see some sort of a coefficient factor or correction factor that would get us a little bit closer, because the fact is that the median annual income and the need for library services is far greater in Malala, Sandy, Estacada, places like that than they are in probably Lake Oswego, Westland, Happy Valley. So I don't think there's support for doing that, though. People want to be able to consider a new bond measure in the next 3 years or so. And they think they'll solve the equity formula at that point, which from where I sit, unless they fix that equity formula, I wouldn't be supporting another library bond because I don't want to move forward with that kind of inequitable. It's a district. We should all be getting, it should be run like a district, not just as individual city libraries. That's all I have. Thank you so much for everybody being here. Great job. It's been a busy summer. You guys have done a great job at the movies and the concerts in the park and all the other events, and we've, getting the funding, and I'm really excited about where we're heading. So thanks for everybody's hard work.
And now an executive session.
Yep.